everyone, this is GrayMatter with GrayMatter Tutorials, and today we're going to talk about how we might implement a simple task, quest, or achievement system using Unity. So one of the things we're going to be focusing on a lot in this series is using delegates, events, and event handling within our code. So if you're not familiar with these concepts, please take some time, look it up. Likewise, I'm also going to be sharing a link to a post of mine on my blog about this very system, and a lot of the code that you'll see in that blog is going to be mirrored in this tutorial series as well. I think how I'm going to set it up later on is where I actually do the recording of the video before the blog post, but I really wanted to get that post out there. I'm notorious for doing quest systems. I had quite a few of them on my YouTube channel, but I went ahead and deleted them all. So I'm going to redo this one because this one is super simple, and it's a much better version and cleaner version than what I had before. So if you're familiar with those, please keep the ones that you had if you like those more. But this one's really simple, it's sweet, and it's really short. But it captures a lot of the concepts that I wanted to show originally. But either way, follow along with the tutorial before you judge it or anything like that. But I hope you really like it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into Unity. Alright, now that we're in Unity, I've already created our first class file and I called it task. But if you're creating a quest system, go ahead and call it quest. And if you're creating an achievement system, call it achievement. This class file is actually going to define our entire system, so name it accordingly. If you want to go ahead and open that up in Visual Studio, I've already defined the class structure, so feel free to go ahead and take that down real quick. And as you do so, I'm going to go ahead and explain what this class structure is all about. So the very first part, you'll notice that I have a namespace, and I call mine GrayMatter. You can call yours whatever you want it to be, but it's not going to really play that big of an effect. Don't think that there's some standard that you have to go by. I mean, there probably is some standard, but really just do whatever you would like. This is just going to say that this class belongs to this namespace. If it was a mono behavior, I would probably specify this namespace further by calling it GrayMatter.monoBehaviors. If it was a utility class, I would probably go ahead and call this GrayMatter.utilities. But seeing as it's just my base data, I'm just going to leave this as namespace GrayMatter. Okay, so next is going to be our task class. So again, call this quest or achievement, whatever you'd like. It's just going to be our collection of a smaller class, which I'm calling objective. And objective is going to be marked abstract. You can name this class task if you want to name this one quest or achievement. However you feel like naming it, that's all up to you. But it's not going to play that big of a role later on. Just make sure you follow what you name it as opposed to what I'm naming it as if you change it. Okay, so in this video we're going to go ahead and define the objective class. So the very first thing we need for every objective is a reference to its parent task, which I'm just going to call task. You could call it parent, but I'm just going to call it task. Next, I'm going to define a Boolean value on whether this objective is complete. So bool m is complete. Alright, and then I'm going to create a public getter and setter for both those. Call it task. Get return m task. Set m task equal value. Okay. I'm going to delete that m underscore. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is define our constructors. So I've made the decision that I don't want the task to be known during the creation of an objective. I want it to be assigned later when we add the objective to the task. So I'm not going to require a constructor that has that parameter, nor do I want isComplete to be anything but false upon creation. So for this class, I'm going to say public objective, no parameters, m underscore task equals null, and m is complete equals false. Okay, and then we have an abstract class because we have abstract methods, and let's go ahead and implement those now, and I'll explain what they do in just a second. So public abstract void add listeners and remove listeners. Okay, so basically what these what objectives are going to do is they're going to be the classes that listen for events. And when you listen for an event, you're basically saying that some method within the class is going to be called when the event of another class is fired. That sounds really complicated. But once we get into actually creating our own objectives, and once you understand what delegates and events are, which hopefully you've looked up by now or are going to look up before we will go on to the next video, or probably the video after that. That's probably where we're going to start making the objectives. Either way, as long as you understand it or try to understand it, this should become more apparent later on. But for now, we've went ahead and created our objective class. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and create our task class.